Okay, Mark, we're going to talk
Cool.
about something quite serious that's going on in the news at the moment, and that's to do with the Israel-Hamas conflict. And
Okay.
we first of all, straight off, we're not doing anything, and anything that we say now is not in support of anything that's going on at all from either side at all. That's not what this is actually about. It's got nothing to do with the conflict itself. Okay, before
No,
anyone.
not at all. Because we're straight into it here and there sometimes, but this isn't a political podcast.
Mm,
We do have our, if any of you's, bumped into me in the street and asked what my views are, I'll give them to you, but it's not for this forum.
yeah. Now, I came across this story in a couple of places, but the place that I really found out sort of quite a bit about detail, because as soon as I heard about this, I wanted to find out what it was, and so I looked at a website called ShotKit, which is a really good site, okay, which I look at every now and again. And as it happened, they had the story, and this was going
Okay.
back a while ago, and I'd missed it. Well, I'd heard about it, but I didn't find any information on it at the time. This goes back a couple of months, and I'm going to quote their site quite a lot because I don't want to get anything wrong or misquote anything. But basically, it was saying
Yeah.
that some media outlets had run some fake AI generated images of the Israel-Hamas conflict. Now, there's no
Wow.
surprise, okay, that if this had happened a few years ago, 10, 15 years ago, it wouldn't have surprised me, okay, because
Hey,
journalists,
look, this sort of thing,
news stories,
this
things are
yeah,
embellished,
this
aren't they?
sort of thing's been going on since forever. I mean, you just got to
Okay.
look. I remember at school reading, in history, reading about the Russian Revolution and
Mm.
how, Stalin put himself next to Lenin, but actually it was Trotsky that was sitting next to Lenin, and all these things.
Yeah,
It's been done for such a long time,
of
so
course it is. That's right. Yeah,
it shouldn't be a surprise.
that's right. Yeah. So basically, it was saying, the story goes on to say, a number of, and I'm quoting this from ShotKit, a number of media outlets have again got caught using fake AI images. It says a number of media outlets have again got caught. That's telling, using fake AI images as real photos, but this time quite blatantly. Adobe Stock Image Library recently had a number of images hosted on it that were for sale and showed AI rendered recreations of currently ongoing the Israel-Hamas conflict. After finding
Really?
these, presumably through a search of Adobe stock photos, a number of news publishers then bought the images and used them as if they were real.
Wow, that's odd because I'm doing some work at the moment. It's a sci-fi piece, and I haven't done a lot of my time punk stuff for a while just because I've been busy doing other things. But I really wanted to get back on it because it helps my creativity, quite frankly.
Hmm.
And I noticed that some of the backgrounds I've been looking for on stock, yeah, some of them are AI generated now, and I've never noticed that before. Never
so
noticed that before.
so Adobe itself didn't render these images. Let's get that out straight out there, okay?
No, no,
Instead,
no, no, no.
in,
People upload them.
yeah, instead it says the software giant, creator of photographer tools like Lightroom and Photoshop, okay, let users sell their own work through its platform. These can be photos taken by actual cameras, but also images that users create right through Adobe's own machine learning tools via the Adobe Stock Library. So for
Hmm.
every image sold by a photographer or artist, Adobe gives them 33% of the revenue while keeping the rest. Fair enough.
Hmm.
So how much an artist or
That's what it
photographer
is, isn't it?
earns depends on the price of their image once it's licensed and downloaded by a buyer. Said with this arrangement, numerous users have added numerous AI rendered images to the Adobe Stock Library, hoping to make some relatively easy money. And in many cases, the images they create are of controversial subjects that would otherwise be difficult or expensive to capture with a camera. And a perfect example of that is the Hamas-Israel conflict.
Yeah.
Okay,
Or a
and
sci-fi neon bar, which is what I was searching for.
yeah, right. Okay, um, and it says some of these examples from Adobe is an image called Conflict Between Israel and Palestine Generative AI, which shows billowing dark clouds of smoke coming from ruined buildings. And it was bought and shared by an assortment of internet news outlets as if real, despite being fake and clearly labeled as such by Adobe. So Adobe haven't done anything wrong here because they
No.
clearly labeled it. You
Yeah,
know,
no, absolutely. It is. I noticed it said AI on it,
mm,
and if it says AI on it, that's been created. It's not been taken. It's not real footage. It's been created by someone rather than being taken by someone, I guess, if that's the
Yeah.
good way of sort
Yeah. So it
of
says here,
describing it.
yeah, to a casual reader browsing a news article without thinking about image details, that that's one of the things, because people read and they look and they'll never think, oh, this is fake. Okay, so you can't blame the readers or anything for picking something like that. It says, but the news outlet reporters have no such excuse though to do this.
No, no.
And
If anyone's trained to look into that stuff, it's them.
yeah, and this just goes to show, as we're going on to different subjects here, right? I'm not going to really, but this just goes to show how how human beings have become in many ways, right? We live in such a sort of cutthroat dog eat dog world. I'm going to be better than you type of thing at all costs, because look at me, I'm on the edge and I'm a journalist or whatever it is, and I don't care because I'm gonna make money, I'm gonna create content, and I'm gonna whatever. We've gone way past common decency.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a simplistic way of looking at it. I'm sorry, but it's almost a wanting to see the color through the world through rose tinted glasses or something. And I know the world's not like that.
No, it is very difficult. I mean, with journalism, it's such a vast sort of scope when it comes to journalism. You have people who have been doing some fantastic stuff. I mean, you just got to look at war photographers like Don McCullen and people like that. Magnum and all those things that have done incredible work in bringing the news to us through visuals, risking their lives. I mean, I can't remember the amount of people because I was watching something about this conflict, and I might be wrong, but I think it's about 75 journalists have died in this conflict. It's something like that.
Wow.
I don't know if 75 is the right number, but there has been a lot of journalists who have died since this started, and this is not a lot. I know that the troubles between sort of Israel and Palestine have been going on for decades, well, almost millennia if you count sort of Bible stuff. But this specific conflict, if we're just going to sort of pick this one out, which is why people are talking about it at the moment, it's only been going for a couple of months, and all those journalists have died in what is a tiny area. It's not a big area. The Gaza Strip is tiny, really. And so you got to think about those people, putting their lives on the line to bring this. And I think we spoke about this it's quite a few episodes ago, wasn't it? We're saying, look, these people, I think we're talking about more Ukraine than anything else. I don't think Gaza had happened at the time. And these people are putting their lives on the line to bring us authentic, quality journalism, basically. And that's what they are. On the other hand, you also have people like Piers Morgan. I'm going to name him because, and I know he says he doesn't know anything about the phone hacking stuff. I get that. So that keeps the lawyers happy. I know he doesn't, but there's a lot of people who did. And News of the World got shut down. I know it's a different paper. That's Murdoch, and Morgan was the Mirror. But there are people like, they had to close down the News of the World because of the terrible things they did to Millie Dowler and their family with the phone. And that's the other side of journalism, the disgusting side. So I hear what you're saying about that, Cam, about but have faith, there are some good people still out there doing stuff to keep us informed.
Of course, that's right. Yeah, and there's far more of that than any of this going on. I think what's worrying though is, again, let's forget about the photography aspect of everything, but the effect that it has on people, because something like this encourages people to take sides, okay, and it's very easy for them to start spouting off because they can get taken in by a video and or an image very, very easily, and then that can cause all sorts of untold damage. How it affects individuals and families that are it's misinformation that goes out. And we have to understand that not everything that we see is real, and we're going to see more of that with AI, unless news stories, unless journalists and TV stations, when they show a video, it clearly actually says at the bottom, there'll be a little logo or something that will become world known that just sort of says AI or something, and everyone's going to know, oh, that's been AI generated.
Well, I kind of hope news outlets won't use AI imagery actually,
Mm,
unless they're doing a graph,
yeah.
which obviously you might need AI, you know. But actually, if it's footage of a war or something like that, I'm kind of hoping you should use AI. I mean, like I said, this sort of thing's been going on for a long time. Now,
Mm,
I'm using this loosely because I know a lot of people who don't even trust the BBC when it comes to the stuff
mm,
on their news because of propaganda and agendas and all that kind of stuff. But compared to compared to what's on the internet, I'm guessing that you know, you could probably call the BBC gospel in comparison. Well, the
mm,
gospel isn't even real either, but
mm,
you know, you can. It's a more trustworthy outlet.
mm,
Unfortunately, though, most people now don't consume their news
mm,
through people like the BBC or ITV or Sky News or whatever it is. You know, they're consuming the news through things like Twitter and Facebook, and the thing is, there's no editor yeah, editor at large on Twitter.
mm,
It's X, sorry, it's called X now, isn't it?
mm,
Stupid name for a platform. Yeah, so you know, you've got Twitter, but there's no one on Twitter going, hang on a minute, that's not right. That's not right. Everything's just on there, and you have to make it's a minefield. So it's not as if these images weren't around
mm,
before,
mm,
because they were, like I said, they were used in the Russian Revolution. They're probably used during the Second World War. They were, you know, of course, propaganda is a thing, and everyone uses it. We've
mm,
used it.
mm,
Nazis used it. Russians used it. Australians, everyone's used it.
mm,
But the thing is, we'd have that filter when we watched our news, i.e., the BBC, ITV,
mm.
Sky News, whatever. Okay, and the filters of the editors making sure these sources are correct. Have you ever? I was watching it was a drama series called The Newsroom. It's a bit cheesy. It's by Aaron Sorkin, who did The West Wing, and it's cheesy. It didn't last particularly long because I
Right.
think it was not that great. But there was interesting parts of it. It's the inner workings of a newsroom, and they have to, you know, the fact they have to like triple check their sources and things like that before it goes on air. And although that's a drama, I'm sure something similar happens at the BBC newsrooms. Well, you don't get that with Twitter. You don't get that with Facebook. It's just up there and people just believe it. So for me, it's not about the imagery, it's about how we consume it. And when you're looking at these things, you've just got to be so careful, because now the filter is your own brain. The filter is your common sense. And that's what you got to rely on. And it is difficult. It's very difficult because,
Mm,
like I said, these newsrooms have teams of people
mm,
making sure that their sources are correct. Well, you know, if you're, you know, sitting down, scrolling through Twitter, you know, you don't have that team going, actually, this is wrong. Now, I know they are putting disclaimers now. I've noticed on Twitter, aren't they? They're putting
mm.
disclaimers down saying,
Yeah.
actually, this might not be accurate, but that's not on everything.
Mm,
And that's what you have to be careful of. May I ask though, Cam? I'm
mm.
not sure if it says in the in the article, um, what the pictures depicting essentially. What was the propaganda angle with these images?
You know, it doesn't actually say, because I didn't see
Okay,
the articles, because when I actually pressed on the links that I actually saw where the story came from, it doesn't actually that none of the links in the story actually exist now. So I think there's certain things that have actually been taken down. The
right. So Adobe have
actual,
taken them off.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, the actual image they use as a header, it just two planes in the sky, but they're just two fighter jets. That's just the header of the story, but it doesn't actually show anything at all.
Mm.
So, and it doesn't actually really go into explaining what it is. It's just basically a story that says that media outlets were using fake images, and maybe they've intentionally not
Yeah.
showing any of those images at all.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Sensible.
Yeah. On the flip side, just to sort of finish the story off very quickly, you know, we are now in that AI world, and as photographers, you know, this is possibly the next thing that photographers are going to have to be learning. Videographers, photographers, content creators. It's the next skill that will take the photography world forward. So don't sort of think
But we're already
AI.
there.
Yeah, but
We're already
don't sort of
there. When you
think.
think about the
Yeah,
tools
that's
in
right. Yeah.
Lightroom and Photoshop.
That's right. Yeah. So don't think, oh, look, you know, I'm totally against AI, because if you are and you're a photographer in business, you're going to get left behind if you don't
Mm,
embrace it, really. So, you know,
yeah.
catch 22, really, isn't it, in many ways?